Well, I want to thank everyone again from the Colchester Business Association for hosting us tonight, along with the rest of the candidates on the Democratic slate. We appreciate the time to introduce them. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Bernie Dennler. I'm your Democratic candidate for First Selectman. I'm a lifelong Colchester resident. I live in town currently with my husband Jack. We own a historic home on Hayward Ave that we are working to restore. I'm a graduate of Bacon Academy. I spent a few years, I went off to college. I went to New York, spent a little time there. While I was there, I worked as a journalist. And in that time, that helped me pay the bills because there were no handouts. I was paying my own way. That experience helped me learn a little bit about managing people and set me off on the path that I would go down eventually when I came back to Colchester. I ended up taking a job at the Lebanon Town Hall working in the First Selectman's office there. I work as the office manager there currently. The first boss who hired me, Republican First Selectman of Lebanon, Betsy Petrie. I told her when I got there, I was like, I'm a Democrat, hope that's okay. And she said, we've got work to do, and those kind of party politics don't belong in this office. That has been something that has guided me as I have set forth on this journey here in my own town. And part of the reason I've done that is because in that professional work, I realized what a demand there is for volunteers to step forward and serve their communities. So I took a seat on the Economic Development Commission where I wanted to serve on as vice chair. Later, I served on Board of Finance as vice chair. While on Board of Finance, one of my biggest priorities was public safety, fighting for additional firefighter staffing, and fighting for the replacement of our badly aged fire apparatus. I come from a family of firefighters. That is an issue that is close to my heart, but it's also very important, I believe, to residents and business owners like yourselves to ensure that your customers, residents, homeowners are safe in Colchester. That'll continue to be a priority for me if I'm First Selectman of this town. Part of the reason I am running today is because I have been disappointed, and I've heard from other people that they are concerned about the dysfunction they have seen at the Colchester Town Hall in the last 2 years, where something like 30 employees have left Town Hall. It has created disruption, brain drain, and loss of institutional knowledge, and that has impacted people from residents to homeowners, business owners. When you go to the Town Hall, you need to have people you can rely on. I'm invested in using my professional background to rebuild the team we have there, and also to stop the negative headlines that are causing the negative publicity that I think is not setting the best example for what we want to see in Colchester. But there's a lot of work to do. I want to make sure that if I'm First Selectman, that we are going to be making investments in things like water and sewer. We have a public water and sewer system that I want to preserve and improve for business owners like yourself. I want to support schools and families that represent the customer base of our small businesses. And I want to be able to invest in walkability, improved streetscapes, and parking for our commercial areas. Thank you.
Andreas.
Ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, I would like to thank the Colchester Business Association for hosting the event and all our wonderful guests joining us tonight. I look forward to sharing this evening with all of you. It has been a tremendous honor representing the town of Colchester, the town I have made my home for over 36 years. As your First Selectman, I might have been unanimously endorsed as the Republican candidate for First Selectman, but I have always dedicated to making a difference for everyone in the community. When I ran 2 years ago, I put forward a very long list of goals and accomplishments. I have been fortunate enough to accomplish the majority of those in my first term, but I also have a responsibility to continue what I started and to finish that. This collective success has led to the Colchester comeback. Tonight, I hope to share the fruits of our success as well as a vision for tomorrow. My underlying campaign message has always been people before government, with a focus on affordability, transparency, economic development, and tradition. Our local government should serve the people, not special interest groups and runaway spending. A fiscally conservative government that emphasizes strategic spending and low taxes while putting the needs of the people first. I'm the only candidate in this race for First Selectman with a proven set of accomplishments, a dedicated vision for our community, and a backbone to hold all officials accountable regardless of political affiliation or personal relationship. There are no constraints on what we can achieve together, and no barriers to our progress. The human spirit is unbreakable, and my perseverance to ensure our community success is unmatched. Mr. Dennler made some very interesting comments in his opening remarks, and I hope to refute some of those. He's made a claim that he's a proponent for public safety, yet it took him 10 months to schedule an interview or a conversation with our fire chief. 10 months of rhetoric, and he didn't do anything about it. That's all it was. He talks about safety. I've proven that I believe in safety. I secured 24-hour coverage for our community. And I looked, I guess my time's up, right? No, how much more time I got? We're good. We're good, I'll save the rest for later.
All right, first question. Andreas is up first.
Sure.
We are a business association. What are your thoughts on the current climate for small business in Colchester? And what would you focus on during the next 2 years to improve that?
Thank you, Greg, for the question. Our community is very fortunate to have wonderful small businesses. 2 years ago, I stood in front of all of you with a promise that I would bring $1 million in ARPA funds to our small businesses, those that were affected by the COVID pandemic. I delivered on that promise. I'm the only candidate in this room that has performed small business tours promoting businesses on a weekly basis. My family started a small business. I understand the sweat and labor that goes into those small businesses and what is needed to make them a success. We need to continue to keep our taxes low. We need to continue to keep this community affordable for our small businesses. Electing a socialist is not going to get us there. You will be guaranteed high taxes and runaway spending. Furthermore, we've seen a lot of investment in our community. Many small businesses have come to Colchester. Fornarelli's, Maria's Restaurant, Pokemoto. Chipotle is knocking at our doorsteps. Businesses are investing in Colchester. And one more thing. I'm the only candidate in 15 years, the only first selectman in 15 years to make progress on Jack Chevrolet building. And now the Granite Group is moving into that building and expanding. That's what it's all about. You have the strongest proponent for small businesses right here, because I believe that our small businesses are the heartbeat of our community.
Burton, you all set?
Yeah, thank you. So, when it comes to our small business community in Colchester, some of the things that I would like us to focus on in the next couple of years involve making investments in our commercial districts, both in the downtown and in Westchester, because I've talked to a lot of business owners in Westchester who say they feel forgotten by the town. One of the things I would like to do at the town hall is to hire dedicated grant writing services. Part of the reason for that is because, as my opponent mentions, we need to balance affordability with our goals in this community. There's a lot of vision that people have, and I hear lots of great ideas when it comes to what we could do to improve streetscapes, what we could do to improve walkability, what we could do to improve parking in the downtown, so that when there are events, it doesn't become a burden to businesses, but rather it is an asset to businesses. We cannot do all of that on the backs of taxpayers in Colchester. Some of it maybe should be funded through the town budget. And there are things that if we can't do through grants, I'll support funding it through the town budget. If we need to make improvements to our public water and sewer system and we can't find grants to do it, we need to get that done because our community, from residents to business owners like yourself, rely on that. But I do think that there is an opportunity to get some of that money that is out there right now from the federal government that didn't come from the ARPA program. ARPA was great, but ARPA was easy. The federal government handed out checks to municipalities like Colchester all around the country. All we had to do was figure out how to spend it. Money is not going to rain down again. We have to go out and find it. Colchester is a historic community. We are a strategically located community because of our highway access. I mean, that is why businesses in Colchester are successful. But I think that the town could be doing more to help bring in the resources that uniquely the town is able to help bring in order to advance the small business community, to promote the community, and to help ensure that Colchester small businesses will continue to have a strong future in this town. Thank you.
Bernie, you're first with this question. What is your vision for the future of Colchester?
Thank you. So, as I mentioned when I talked about grants, those are some of the things that I would like to see us be able to do. We have an amazing, beautiful town center, but there are things that we could do to make it better. I want to see better walkability, better accessibility, better parking. Events on the town green are excellent, but I can't tell you how many business owners tell me that it can be a problem for them because they've got people parking in their parking lots who don't end up being customers. As we draw people to the downtown, it should be a boon for businesses, not an inconvenience. I want to promote recreation because part of my campaign's theme is about bringing Colchester together, and bringing Colchester together means giving people spaces where they can be together. That means improvements to the recreation complex and also improvements at Bacon Academy. We have a strategic opportunity in the next several years, I believe, to look at what is going on at Bacon. There's probably going to be some sort of need in the next 5 to 10 years for some kind of renovation at that building. And that could be an opportunity to make some of the improvements that we know need to be made to the recreation side of our town. We could do it at Bacon Academy. But we need to be thinking long-term about these issues. We keep thinking in these 2-year bites, and there's no plan there. So I have an idea for being a first selectman who's going to think not just in terms of today, 2 years from now, but what do we need to do for the next 5 to 10 years to execute on a vision for our community. One other thing that I would really love to see is more access to open space and working with the Colchester Land Trust or other organizations for passive recreation that residents can use so that we can ensure that Colchester remains a historic town, a town where you have that kind of access to natural resources. I was very fortunate. I grew up out on Brainerd Road. I grew up out in the woods, and I love that. That's part of what brought me back to Colchester, and I want to make sure natural resources that make our community special are preserved for generations to come.
Thank you. Andreas?
Thank you. I heard a lot of adjectives and verbs, but I didn't hear any accomplishments to deliver on those promises. As first selectman, when we talk about our recreations and our fields and such, I delivered for our children and our families. I delivered a playground, I delivered a pickleball courts, I delivered basketball courts, and I did something that Bernie was against when he was on the Board of Finance. I delivered on field irrigation. When he served on the Board of Finance, he served on the Debt Service Subcommittee, and he deprioritized the safety of our fields. He neglected our children by that decision. I stand with our families and I stand with our children. And I will continue the Fields of Dreams initiative to ensure that our families have the best fields in the state, the best parks and recreations possible. That's important to me. But on some other items, we need to think about expanding the operational quarters of our police department. They have been long neglected by past administrations. And it's time now that we put and invest in our police force who are operating in cramped and terrible conditions. It's time we back the blue as a community. Some other items. I'm going to complete that senior center. And I've been working very hard, and I've been making the proper steps to get us there. Furthermore, we need to make some fundamental changes in our charter, including term limits for elected officials, so we can end the backroom deals and the political corruption that's been stemming in this town. And I'm the only one willing to draw a line in the sand to all of that, not the puppet candidate that we have here in front of us.
Thank you. Andreas, up first with this question. The town budget has been defeated at least once in the past 3 years. What, if any, adjustments would you make to overseeing budget preparation and presentation?
When it comes to our budget, there are some fundamental steps that we're already taking. we are beginning the integration of transparency software with ClearGov. That integration will allow for unparalleled transparency for the residents of our community. My opponent and his underticket have spoken against transparency software. They don't want the public looking at the numbers. The people deserve instantaneous access to our information. If the people feel comfortable with the numbers, then the budgets will have an easier chance of passing. There's another item that we need to do. Budgets pass when we can get a unanimous consent on the Board of Finance. I've learned that. This second go round on the budgets, it took 2 times. And it was possible because I brought Mike Egan, Andrea Migliaccio, John Chaponis, and others in town government and in our town together to discuss the numbers and to feel comfortable in progressing a vision and a budget that everyone could get behind. I can get Mike Egan to the table. Can you get Tim Valancourt to the table? I don't believe so. And that's the ability that I have.
All set? Absolutely. All right. So, I think that Andreas made a good point on one thing, and that's that when people have confidence in the numbers, they're more likely to vote yes. He says that's why he's for the transparency software. Problem is that his budget process has been anything but transparent. Look back a year and a half ago when the budget had failed, and Mike Egan, who he's praising tonight, Mike was the one who first said that it looked like there was a problem in the spending that had taken place in the previous year. The budget was on track to have been overspent. Now, we hadn't seen final reports yet for the town's spending for the year, but you could project based on past spending what the pattern was. First Selectman insisted there was no issue there. The budget was not going to be overspent. Well, we asked for the reports. Let's see, the year has ended. Let's see where we stand. We could not get the reports until the day after one of the budget referendums. The date on the report, days before the referendum. People had a right to that information. It could have guided their decisions. It could have guided actions by the Board of Finance. It was an inconvenient truth, and so it was covered up. So the idea that because he is following through on a campaign promise for transparency software, I don't think says a lot when we have not seen a pattern of transparency when it comes to managing the town budget. And that's why I believe that as First Selectman, one of the most important things that I can do is to help ensure stable functioning of our town finance office. The numbers that were printed in this year's first legal notice were wrong. The numbers literally did not add up. How much damage did that do to this year's budget process? How much damage will that continue to do as people ask, can they have faith in what is coming out of the finance department going forward? So restoring stability to the functioning of the finance office is probably the #1 priority that I have when I get into town hall. Thank you.
Bernie, you're first on this. Maintenance of town buildings and roads has been a recurring topic during many discussions recently. From ARPA funds to the town budget process, what is your plan to address this issue?
Excellent. So I believe that Colchester needs to start thinking long-term. Again, when I served on Board of Finance, one of the problems we had is that we kept getting these major problems where something that could have been fixed a while ago instead needed to be replaced. Where I work at the Lebanon Town, something we have is a long-term planning committee. And it features members of the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance. They get input from Board of Education, from the Fire Department, from Public Works. And what we do is we hear, hey, what are the issues we face today? And what do we need to do to deal with those over the next year, 2 years, 5 years? If we get a better sense as a community of what our long-term maintenance needs are through some sort of dedicated process, I believe that we can budget more efficiently to actually deal with those things. But the truth is that we're gonna have to budget for some of that stuff, and that has been the problem in Colchester, is that when budgets were proposed, they were defeated. And Andreas says that I was opposed to field irrigation. I wasn't opposed to field irrigation. There were two key priorities that had to happen in town. We had to replace the fire apparatus. Some of it was older than I am. We had to finish the senior center and move something forward. We had a building committee in place. We've been kicking the can down the road on it. Those were our two top priorities. Field irrigation absolutely needs to happen, and it's a good thing that it's happening. But we needed to address the safety of our fire vehicles first, and we needed to address the senior center. With those projects out of the way, I believe now is the perfect time to talk about maintenance when it comes not just to our town buildings, but also to our recreation facilities. And those will be major priorities for my administration. And I believe for the rest of the Democratic ticket, and I hope, based on what I'm hearing, that we will find support from our Republican colleagues in doing that. Thank you.
Andreas.
It sounded like he just said he's gonna raise your taxes. He didn't mention any of the funding sources on how to mitigate some of the concerns that we have in terms of repairing and long-term planning. Here's what they don't want you to know. Our revenue has been growing exponentially as a community. We have healthy reserve accounts that can be used to mitigate some of the costs and the maintenance that is needed. We have a very, very large unassigned fund balance that could be utilized to offset some of these concerns. But that's not what he mentioned. He didn't mention that we have other funding sources that could mitigate the impact and cost to the citizens. In terms of long-term planning, I've actually sat down with the fire chief and worked with projects for long-term planning. You have not. In terms of vehicle maintenance, I've worked with Stephen Sharp and our field maintenance supervisor to establish a vehicle improvement plan. There's some of the things that you don't know about, but we've already taken the appropriate steps to start planning for the future. A facilities maintainer was also provided in this year's budget, which I fought for. That maintainer is going to be approaching and taking a look at long neglected buildings. I've taken the appropriate steps, and I will continue to take the appropriate steps to ensure that not only do we get nice and new things, but we also maintain what we have moving forward without raising your taxes like a socialist would.
Okay, last question before closing remarks. Andreas, what qualifications do you have that make you the best person in Colchester for the next 2 years?
Well, I'm the only candidate here with actual experience and accomplishments. 2 years ago, when I ran for office, I made a laundry list of items that I wanted to achieve for our community. And I've gone down the list and I've made everything happen. I secured the field irrigation, I've secured the pickleball courts, I've secured progress on the senior center, we've invested in our first responders and our fire department. These are historic investments that we have made. Mr. Dennler works in Lebanon 4 days a week doing secretarial work. He is not qualified to lead the town. He does not have the experience. He talks a big game, but he hasn't ever delivered on an accomplishment. He says he fought for the fire apparatus equipment. But the reality is that the entire Board of Finance unanimously supported that without even a whimper. The bottom line is I'm the only one in this room with a list of accomplishments, a vision, and the ability to get things done. And they might say it was all ARPA, but you need to start somewhere, you need to execute that vision, and you need to complete the project. And I worked with the contractors. I worked with our department heads. I worked with volunteers to ensure that projects came to fruition. And you can see throughout the town that things are getting done. For once, things are getting done in this town. And long neglected items, such as the town green was brought to life because our previous administration didn't do anything about it, and I made it happen.
Thank you. So, I do a little bit more than secretarial work, actually. If you don't believe me, you could ask one of the first selectmen of Lebanon, either Betsy Petrie or current first selectman Kevin Swickla. They'd be happy to tell you about the work that I do for that town. When there is an emergency, one of my duties for that town is to serve as the central point of contact, coordinating operations between Eversource, Public Works, and the fire department. My job is to make sure that roads are safe, that roads are clear, that power gets turned back on. It doesn't matter if it's a Monday morning or if it's Christmas Eve at 11 o'clock at night. I have been fighting for the residents of that town and doing my job regardless of party politics. When people walk through the door of my office and they have an issue in their community, my job is to figure out how to help them. I don't know if they're Democrats or Republicans. I believe that one of the issues we have in Colchester right now is that we have gone into these separate corners where we keep viewing ourselves and each other through this electoral lens. And I don't have that because that's not why I got involved in this. Yes, I'm running as a Democrat. I'm very proud of the Democratic team of candidates that I'm running with. But I also have a goal of bringing Colchester together and working with people across the political spectrum. Right now, when you look at our board meetings, that's not happening. We have police getting called to meetings. We have news reports every other week, it seems, about some sort of chaos or dysfunction that is taking place either at our public meetings or the Colchester Town Hall. And it is creating an image of our community that I believe is really not representative of the town that I grew up in, the town that I love, and the town where you do business. So I want to use the professional experience I have, coupled with the volunteer experience that I have. And yes, I did fight for the fire trucks because there were certain members of the Board of Finance who tried to stonewall that and delay it, regardless of what they say now. And I will keep doing that if I am elected first selectman, and that's why I hope to earn your support on November 7th. Thank you.
Andreas.
Closing remarks. You know, I had a speech prepared, but Mr. Dennler made some very serious comments and claims throughout this whole this evening, and I'd like to refute some of those while we're here. The bottom line is that in terms of bringing Colchester together, the reality is that ever since I got elected, there has been a small group of vocal activists known as the Democratic Town Committee that have been coming after me since day one. We have two Board of Selectmen members right here, Rosemary Coyle and Denise Turner, who can't even show up to meetings because they can't accept the election results of last year. And what we get are mushroom heads at meetings, texting each other information. That is disrespectful to the people of this community. You know what else is disrespectful? That this candidate right here turns a blind eye to bad behavior. You want to talk about chaos at the meetings? Let's talk about your friend Mike Egan threatening and verbally assaulting a selectman member in Jason LaChapelle. Or how about verbally assaulting the finance director at a meeting? Yet you stay silent. Let's talk about our town clerk here who misappropriated historical preservation funds for her hotel rooms. And took money and took no, we're not stopping because that's the truth. And the problem is you cannot handle the truth. Okay? That's why she's under investigation by the Attorney General. Using a tax ID number without authorization from the Finance Department, using absentee ballot funds for a mini fridge. Yet Bernie here stays silent and smiles and tells you that everything is going to be okay. Yet he was part of a political dissident list that said, if you don't support us, we're not going to stop by your house. You know what? The bottom line is that he will turn a blind eye to bad behavior and allow the seeds of corruption to fester in our community. And sometimes transparency isn't pretty, but you gotta be honest with your citizens. And I will always stand up against corruption and toxic behavior that he's willing to turn a blind eye to due to political affiliation and personal relationship. And you saw it here with Mr. Hayes flipping out because he didn't want me speaking the truth. Good luck, Bernie. Hopefully you'll have a backbone.
Mike. We've done well so far, please. All right. You all set, partners?
Yes, thank you.
Bernie.
So once again, I want to thank the members of the Colchester Business Association for hosting tonight and for giving us the opportunity to speak and answer some of the questions that have come through. Something I hear a lot about from residents, but also business owners, is that they are looking for professionalism in your town government. And that is what I hope to deliver as your first selectman. I want to be a first selectman who acts less like a political figurehead, grandstanding and making bombastic speeches, and more like a town manager who is going to get things done, is going to manage personnel effectively, and is going to manage your town finances accurately. Those are my goals. But when it comes to achieving that, something that I think is very clear tonight, you've got a great contrast here. You can decide what you want. But Andreas and I have different leadership styles. We just do. Andreas is, as I said, bombastic, theatrical. Yes, you're right. He will call people out. I don't think that that is always constructive or necessarily good for our community. I also don't think he always calls people out for things that are true, which is an ongoing issue. But my style is to try to work collaboratively with people. And I don't always agree with people on my team. I don't always agree with people on the other side. But I try not to make a habit of stepping on other people. I also try to talk to people when I disagree with them, because I believe that's how you work together as a team. That there's a lot of things that you can correct or change when you talk to people one-on-one and tell them where you're coming from. And I believe that's what good leaders do. And that's what I plan to do as first selectman. Sometimes there may be things that have to be dealt with publicly, but there's also a lot when you're managing an organization that has to happen between individuals so that people are treated with dignity and respect. And I don't believe that that is the way this has been handled. Police have been called publicly. People have been accused of things that may or may not have been true. It has all been, thrown out in the paper for the world to see. I believe that's because of politics, not because anybody thought that it was sound management. I want to get Colchester back to sound management because I really believe that all of the problems that we may have in our community, the visions we have, we can sort all of that out if we can get back to talking to each other again. But right now, you look at our board meetings, we can't even seem to do that. And so that's my number one goal as a candidate for first selectman, is to get people at our meetings talking respectfully again. And to be a leader as a chair of the Board of Selectmen who will try to make the outreach and to get people having conversations again. When I was vice chair of the Board of Finance, one of the things that I always tried to do was to make sure that we were having conversations and that the Democrats and Republicans on the board understood each other. Because honestly, if we can understand each other, I think we can get a lot done as a community. Thank you.
I'd like to congratulate both candidates for tonight.